The Fungin. The next one is by Fungin74. Oh my goodness, this is a long one. Uh, uh, you guys can read all that yourself. But the question I think is at the very end. Would like to go into stropping with compound bit feel, or is it butt feel? Unsure how to do and would like more advice on this topic on how to start / when to use what kind. Man, Fungin, even your question is like 3 questions in one. Fungin, so I see here you've got the Tomo 140, the Glass 320, the Glass 1000. You have 2? You have 2 Shopping Glass 1000s? Why? Why? Okay, then you have the 90-watt Pro 3000, 5000, and then the Kitayama 8000. Okay, then you've ordered the Kai 1000, 6000 stone. So let me just say this for a second. Backup and redundancy is great in technology. It's great when you have backup hard drives and servers for information and everything. But when it comes to knife sharpening, you don't need redundancy. This list you've got here, you can probably cut this list in half and still get just as good, if not better, results using half of what you've got here. I cannot fault you for getting the Glass 320, but the Tomo 140 really takes that role of the 320 as well. So the Glass 1000, I don't know if you're. I don't know why you have the Glass one. I don't know why you have 2 of the Glass 1000 stones, but if you have 2 workspaces, that's fine. One home here, one home there. That's great. But I don't see the sense of having 2. And then the Shapton Pro 5000. I've used the 5000. I've always said the 5000 feels a bit soft for me, but it's fine. The 90-watt Pro 3000 that you have is my favorite polishing whetstone, and I definitely can be used over the Shapton Pro 5000 any day. And so, to me, I don't see the sense in that. The Kitayama 8000 is a good step up from the 90-watt Pro 3000 because the 90-watt Pro 3000 is a semi-mirror polish, and the Kitayama gives you pretty much a close to mirror, if not mirror polish. I don't see the sense in the Kai 1000, 6000 because all the other stones that you have are splash and goes, and they're more convenient than a soaking whetstone. And yes, it is redundant. There's no point to getting those 2 stones. As a matter of fact, the Kai 6000, I don't think it really is any better than any like true 3,000 or 4,000 grit sharpening stone out there. So I wouldn't get the Kai 1000, 6000. If you already have it, that's fine, but I wouldn't pick it up. Okay, so now to the actual question. In terms of stropping, okay, so depending on when you want to strop, if you're looking to have just a leather strop that you want to use after your 1000 whetstone, you don't need to load it up at all. Just simply strop. If you want a strop to actually play the role of giving your knives a mirror polish or a polish of some sort, then you would load it up. The Herald's Green is more like a 4,000 to 5,000 grit polishing stropping compound. The Herald's Red is a really good one. The Herald's Red is more like a 9,000 grit stropping compound. Once you go beyond that, you're now into the 14,000 grit compound range. Norton makes a really nice one. I want to say it's like $45 to $50 for 20 grams of the stuff. It's probably at least twice as expensive as the next brand below it in terms of price. DMT has a really decent one. I think you can buy them in either like vials, 3 syringes where you have like 1 micron, 0.5 micron, and 0.3 micron for like $20. But they're only like 5 grams per syringe. So you can load maybe 5 or 6 strops per syringe versus the Norton. You can probably load 20, 30 strops per syringe. But it's really expensive. If you really want to trim this list down, I would keep the Tomo 140, the Shapton Glass 1000, the Kitayama 8000, and then a leather strop. And sell the Shapton Glass 320 and the 90-watt Pro 3000 and the Shapton Pro 5000 and the Kai 1000, 6000. I would get rid of all those stones, sell it, get some money back, and put it towards a leather strop, some compounds, or put it towards a knife. I mean, I use knives much more than I use my whetstones. If you want to kind of not get rid of anything that you already have, I would say get 2 leather strops, one to use right after your sharpening glass 1000 sharpening, and one to use after your Kitayama 8000 that's loaded with like a 14,000 grit compound. That way you have the best of both worlds, because it sounds like money is not an issue for you. So my favorite leathers for stropping is equine, which is horse, and then buffalo. Buffalo I find to be much more resilient than latigo. Latigo is nice, but I find them to cut a bit too easy. And I find the surface of buffalo and equine much more smooth and even than latigo. But that's just me. If I were to pick two strops for you, I would go for the rolled buffalo as the everyday strop after the 1000 grit, and then one equine strop that you would load with a 14,000 grit 1 micron compound to use after your Kitayama 8000, right? So yeah. Oh my goodness, that's so next question we have is from Truck Guy HD92. How do you store whetstones? Whoa, the most basic question I've gotten so far. Thank you for this question. I will show you. All right, so we have whetstone here. This is my CRX 1000, which I adore. And then we have the Rika 5000, which I still adore, but it broke when I lent it to somebody. I have found that 99% of the whetstones that are sold on like Amazon and most retailers today will come with some sort of either rubber base or a bamboo base. You guys all know every single Chinese-made whetstone comes with a bamboo base these days. But once you've soaked your whetstone and it's fully soaked and you're done washing it, obviously I haven't washed this one yet, you can just simply store it on the base as is and let it sit at room temp and it'll dry just fine. However, I have found that when soaking whetstones are like thoroughly soaked after sharpening, I have found that I like to leave those stones just at an angle like that. If I have multiple whetstones, I'll do the same thing. You have your base, and then you have your whetstone, and then you have your whetstone sitting on another whetstone. That's what I do. I mean, obviously you don't have to do it this way. I do it this way specifically for the fact that I want my stones to dry evenly as quick as possible. Doing it this way, you might have some dampness on the bottom of the stone, and some stones have been known to crack when that's the case. So, to avoid any sort of cracking potential of my stones, I have my stones sit at an angle like this, and that's a drying. And then I basically just leave them like that until I'm ready to use them again. But there's nothing wrong with leaving your stones, on their bases that they come with, and just let them dry one side down. All right, so this is from Marlon Chin. Hello guys, I use Spyderco bench stones and would like to know how to keep them level and flat. I have found that the Spyderco bench stones that I had were all extremely flat and like squared. They were probably the densest stones I have ever used. If you need to flatten them, I imagine any sort of diamond plates would work fine. I would say the Atoma 600 may be the best option, or the Atoma 1200. But I would just be more concerned of the actual finish that they will leave on the Spyderco when you're done. So that's why I recommend either the 600 Atoma or the 1200 Atoma. I think those two grit levels will be your best option for your Spydercos. But let me know what you're using your Spyderco for, because I'm actually curious. I didn't know that they actually wear down to the point where you feel like you need to flatten them. So just, curious to see what you're actually using. Okay, so this is from Ezra de Guzman. Okay, so this is quite a long one. So this is one bit about whetstone quality versus skill though. Okay, so is it not better to get a good fast cutting medium grit like a CRX despite how a brick can work? Yes, to answer that question, yes. Well, let me just go on here. Because if you're a newbie and want to learn, you'd have to have some sort of reference for how many passes it takes to get a burr on a CRX 1000 and a given steel type. So there's something wrong if it's taking too long. Is it your angle, pressure, etc.? And then, yeah, okay, anyway. And the rest of the comments, I think, is kind of reinforcing the first part of the questions. Okay. So let me just start by saying that when you guys watch me do videos on sharpening on a brick, sharpening on a rock, sharpening on a retaining wall, it is purely for entertainment purposes. I simply do it because I want to show you that you don't need expensive equipment to actually make a knife sharper or to fix a chip on a knife. Again, I always say in those videos, it's for entertainment purposes. You can do it that way, but those techniques take a long time. A brick is soft. A brick cannot sharpen knives, well, at least the brick that I have cannot sharpen a knife over 61 Rockwell. At 62, it takes forever. So, I do those videos only to show that, yeah, you can sharpen a knife on a brick, but it's gonna take you 30, 45 minutes versus 5 to 10 minutes on a good quality whetstone. So Ezra, I agree with you. Your skills is gonna dictate everything. But the quality of the product that you're using is going to matter a lot as well, because it really shows you what you're doing. It allows you to understand feedback. It allows you to understand cutting speed. All of those things matter, and they kind of add up to your overall sharpening experience. So like I said, I do encourage people to buy things that they can afford comfortably. Never stretch your budget. But if you can buy a good quality whetstone, pick up a good quality whetstone, like a Cyrax 1000, exactly what he's saying here. The Cyrax 1000 that I have now is 3 years old. I've used it, I don't know how many times I've used it to sharpen, hundreds of knives at this point. But it's still a stone that I can grow with. It's still a stone that I never feel like I'm outgrowing. And I've never felt like that stone was too slow or that it wasn't good enough to sharpen any knife that I threw at it. So that's why I recommend getting a good quality whetstone from the very get-go. That way it can grow with you. Instead of buying a budget, $10 to $15 whetstone or $20 whetstone, and then having to feel like in 6 months or a year that you need to buy another whetstone, then you have to get rid of this one. Yeah, so everything from my bikes, my clothes, my knives, my whetstones, I buy the best that I can buy, that I can afford, and not try to buy like quantity over quality. But anyways, I think that's what Ezra's trying to say. So Ezra, thank you for reinforcing that. Okay, so next we have Mark Chiang. And hi, Ricky. I have cut my whetstone. What should I do to fix it? Thanks. Okay, so whetstone cutting. This happens, this can happen for many reasons. If your knife angle is too steep, you cut into the whetstone when you're pushing down onto the whetstone on the edge leading push. That's why I always encourage, if you want to apply pressure on the edge trailing strokes, never on the edge leading strokes, because that will ruin your whetstone. And this is probably what happened to Mark's whetstone. How do you get rid of it? You can just ignore it, keep sharpening on it, and it will eventually be ground down and it won't bother you very much. So on the cheap, do it on some sandpaper and a plexiglass. And then if you want to spend some money, the Atomo 140 is what I would get. And I'll leave that in the video description if you don't know what the Atomo 140 is. And then on the sidewalk, if you really want to go budget. Okay? All right. Okay, so the next question we have here is from Martin Yared. And I just gotten into sharpening stones. I understand skill is needed for a good edge, but do I need to get 3,000, 8,000 after getting 1,000, 6,000? And will it improve my edge more? Let me grab another strop. Okay, so I'm too lazy to go grab a whetstone. So I'm using my leather strops as the example here. So imagine, Martin, this is your 1,000, 6,000 whetstone, and this is your 3,000, 8,000 whetstone. So you're asking is, do you need to have a stone that you sharpen on the 1,000 grit side first, and then go to the 3,000 grit side on the new stone, and then go back to the 6,000 grit side on the original stone, and then go to the 8,000 grit side on the new stone? No, their answer is no. You don't need to have an in-betweener and then just above 6,000. You have to understand 3,000 and 1,000, even though they sound like they're very different in terms of the grit rating, they are. The edge you get on the 1,000 can be technically just as good or equally functionally just as sharp as a 3,000 grit stone if you sharpen properly. And then the edge you get on the 6,000 versus 8,000, it's not going to be any different in terms of how it performs. The 8,000 grit will be a bit more mirror-like polished, but it's not going to perform necessarily any better than the 6,000 grit side. So you're essentially, so more or less, you're actually repeating your 1,000, 6,000 by getting the 3,000, 8,000. It's not necessary. So the edge you can get from 1,000, 6,000 to a leather strop at 14,000 is going to be, or should be better than going from 1,000, 3,000, 6,000, 8,000. Okay, 8,000 again is very nice and glossy, and it gives you a nice mirror polish, but you're doing a lot of steps on a lot of different whetstones, and to hold that exact consistent angle between 4 different whetstones is challenging. Especially if they're different brand manufacturers, those ratings may not be equal as well. So you want to remove some of the steps. And so having 3 steps to do versus 4 steps to do is going to be much easier for you. Leather is also a slightly bit more forgiving as well. So if your angles are not exactly on the same plane as what you just sharpened and polished at the 6,000 grit level, it'll be fine. Yeah, you're not going to suffer anything there. So I would recommend you getting a leather strop before going to the 3,000, 8,000. In my opinion, 3,000, 8,000 is more or less replicating 1,000, 6,000. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense to you. Okay, so Android game plays for everyone. Okay, very cute. All right, so the question is there any way to clean my whetstone without having to buy an additional Nagara stone? Yes, these are rust erasers that I've had now for, I don't know, probably 3 years or so. And you can see they have quite a bit of orange discoloration on them. And that's because they've done a lot of removing rust and they've done a lot of whetstone cleaning. So the medium rust eraser has the white handwriting. There's also a coarse one, which I believe has black handwriting. And then the fine one has red handwriting. I've been using these forever. I first discovered these can clean whetstones, I don't know, 2 or maybe close to 3 years ago. I posted a video on it, and everyone who's ever bought one of these to clean the whetstones will tell you the same thing. These are incredible when it comes to cleaning the whetstones. I have successfully cleaned whetstones in the 240 grit range all the way up to I want to say 15,000 grit with this one rust eraser. The coarsest whetstone I have is the Shapton Pro 140, or is it 120? Anyway, it's the white Shapton Pro whetstone that I use for a lot of coarse repairs, and that stone there, it loads a ton of material and it's really fast wearing. So this stone really never, these rust erasers don't really work well on that one whetstone, but every whetstone beyond the Shapton Pro 120 I have successfully cleaned with these rust erasers. And so that's what I use to clean my whetstones with. And Nagaras can cost a lot of money. You can find Nagaras for, $10, $20 each, but they wear really fast. And they can go all the way up to like $300 for a Nagara like this size, like maybe 2 of these. These are like $10. So these are awesome. I've started using these for a lot of things outside of knife sharpening. So I started using them to clean my stainless steel tools. My 90-watt bridge, for example, after so many years of using it, it developed a really thick layer of like hard water mixed with like buildup of like these like just really a grime of sharpening grime, you want to call it that. And this was perfect for removing all that off of the bridge. It made it look like it was brand new again. Once I discovered, and yes, I discovered this, I'll take credit for that. I was the first one to post a video on this topic. But once I discovered that these were great whetstone cleaners, I've never used anything else. I have Nagaras that cost like $100 here, and I just don't use them because these work so much better. So yeah, Android Gamer, I'll leave a link in the video description to where you can find these rust erasers. So for the next Q&A, I will select questions from this video here. So leave your questions in the comment section below, and depending on what questions I get the most in this video, I will address it in the next video. All right, well, thank you guys for being here, and I'll catch you in the next one.